In my 20s, I've learned that the only person holding you back is yourself. In my 30s, I'm living more, laughing more, and loving life, inventing, experimenting, growing. The best way to predict your future is to create it. And one thing I know for certain is that I can do all things through Christ who strengthened me. Signed, a strong Black woman. Hey boos! So, we are back with another video. This is the second video focusing on our first book in my book club. I wouldn't even call it like a club yet, but just like book conversations. So, if you're wondering, I used to be an English teacher. I'm a mother now, stay-at-home mom. I'm trying to get back into reading and just keeping my mind sharp and just being able to actually immerse myself in a book. So if you are looking to do the same, I do plan to do these each week. If you haven't gotten this book yet, what are you waiting for? It is on Amazon. It's a really good book. If you watch my last video, I go more into detail about why I think every woman should have this book. Guys, the time is coming, so hopefully I'll still be able to read when she gets here. Last week, if you haven't done so already, make sure that you like, comment, or subscribe. It was greatly appreciated. All it takes is the click of a button, and you can get updates if you want, or you can simply just subscribe. Support either way. It's appreciated, and it definitely goes a long way. And you can actually help somebody by just clicking the like button. It's that simple. So why not support? Last time we read A Young Mother's Love, and I said I wasn't going to read every entry to you because I want you to obviously support the cause, go get the book. But today we're going to take a look at, it's called, well, we're going to skip from entry 1 to entry 5, and entry 5 is called Fatherless. So I'm going to read you entry 5. So as I'm reading, just think about, your situation. Is this relatable to you? If it isn't relatable to you, how would you feel if this is something you experienced? And if you know a friend or you know someone who has experienced this type of trauma in their lives, then maybe you can become more empathetic towards them or just understand them better. So either way, I think it'd be beneficial. If you were blessed to have your father in your life, beautiful, amazing, because I think sometimes we kind of get caught up on, it's not enough just for your father to be present. And then you have people whose fathers weren't present and they're like, I just wish they were there, even if they didn't do everything you're saying that your father didn't do. Some of us that don't have the same experiences kind of wish we just had a dad around, period. Okay, so both feelings are justifiable. Everybody feels different. You're entitled to your feelings. I honestly feel like a father needs to not only physically be there, but be mentally present. A lot of times fathers are there, but they're just like providers, or they're not providing, and they're just there doing whatever, God knows what, but they're definitely not catering to their children's needs. Like, I've been pretty blessed. And my husband plays with my son. He spends time with him. He's built a relationship with him. And so maybe you had a father present, but you just didn't experience that part of fatherhood. Either way, I'm hoping that this entry can connect with you somehow. So I'll start off by, I'm going to read it, okay? Simply put, my father was murdered. The first man we look up to as women is our fathers. There is something special about the father-daughter bond. My dad was exactly what I wanted in a man at one point. I know, it sounds crazy, right? My father made me smile. He gave me butterflies. He called me his princess and reminded me of how beautiful I was all the time. It was his goal to protect me until he didn't. My father's absence made room for all the other heartbreaks I've encountered. Despite the many times my heart has been broken by others, the reality is I thought that my father broke it first. And if you read the whole book, you'll understand what I mean when I say I thought he broke it first. But he actually gave me the space in my heart to love, given the experiences I had with him. And it's crazy. You really have to read the book to understand. But Deep inside, I wanted a father, but when I dug a little deeper, I knew he could never be the father I wanted him to. It started with his consistent absences at any major event in my life due to incarceration. And I have my own opinions about incarceration as well. If you read Carter G. Woodson, The Miseducation of a Negro, then you will understand the mindset back then that our parents were going through. For example, I was a young girl when I wrote these diary entries. Now I understand the system in this country and how black men are targeted and the things that black men have to go through and the way they tear black families apart. And so everything makes sense to me now as an adult. But remember, these entries come from when I was younger, and this may be something that your child or your daughter or someone you know is experiencing. So they may not understand yet, you know, what the repercussions were from growing up back then and things that, how things were different. Actually, I don't even want to say they're different. There's a lot of stuff going on today still. But the reality is he is dead now. Even before being killed, drug abuse stole his soul and prison was his first home. I remember where it all started. Every year my mother would have huge birthday celebrations for me. And I would get what any girl would have thought were the best gifts in the world. I collected tons of dolls, kitchenettes, nano babies. Y'all remember nano babies. And handheld electronic video games. Most of the time, the only thing I ever wanted as a gift was for my father to be present at least one of my birthday parties. My father never made it to any of my birthday parties growing up. But I will always remember the one and only birthday gift I did receive. He was released one day from prison and he had purchased my very first baby blue pager. That's telling y'all my age, right? I remember like it was yesterday because everyone had pagers back in 2003. You're probably wondering how old I am, but trust me, everyone had a pager. I remember like it was yesterday. My father and I went to the store and picked out the one I liked the most because my favorite color was blue. You couldn't tell me anything about my dad that day. He was the man that day. You know, you get something new, you're young, and it's everything to you. I mean, we still get toys now and get excited about them as adults. But that day, he was the best dad ever. That was until he returned to prison before the first bill was due. And just like that, my beloved gift was gone. I still had the physical remnants because it was symbolic. It was a symbol of my father's love for me, and to think he said he would buy my first new car once I graduated college. Imagine that. And guys, I ended up getting a brand new car. And it's crazy how the book comes full circle and how me and my father's relationship comes full circle. But I did end up getting that brand new car, 2007 Dodge Charger when it first came out. And it's crazy how I got it. Actually, I don't even want to talk about how, if I talk about it now, I might cry. But he kept his promise to me, one that I just knew he could never keep. So if you don't believe in God, believe in God. Everything comes full circle. Everything makes sense at some point. May not make sense now, may not make sense tomorrow or 5 or 10 years from now, but it will. Things will come full circle. As they did for me, they shall for you too, especially if you believe. It was during that time it was during that time my heart started to deteriorate. And those moments I wish I had a father no longer existed. He broke my heart. My next heartbreak was given to me by a young man that I swore I loved. I wanted him to tell me how beautiful I was and how special I was, just as my father used to tell me. One thing for certain, I knew if I had my father's love, that young man's love wouldn't have been able to penetrate my heart. Of course, my mother told me how beautiful I was and how much I didn't need that boy. But when you are young, you don't want to hear that crap. Mothers always know best. Just know later in life you will understand your mother's decisions. Unfortunately, until then, you will hold her accountable for your poor actions. Do you hold your parents accountable when you're younger for the mistakes that you made? Absolutely. We think they're wrong. We think if they only would have let us do this or that, then things could have been different. You find out later that parents were usually correct. My heart struggled to repair itself from the millions of tiny pieces caused by the impact. It was at that moment I knew the father-daughter relationship that I had longed for my entire life was no longer possible. You may be reading this and thinking, well, I have a father. If you have a dad, it is truly a blessing, but maybe someone else is missing that could have changed your life for the better. Does anyone come to mind? Although I like to think I'm healing, my father will continue to break my heart for the rest of my life. He won't be able to walk me down the aisle, and he will miss important moments with his future grandchildren, moments every girl dreams of having her father be a part of. The unintentional pain that my father has inflicted on me is a forever pain. Have you ever felt eternal pain? There's no medication for that, only God. Trust me, I know how hard it is to find God after tragedy, but I promise it is all worth it. It is so important to believe because without it, life becomes even more unbearable. Believing allows you to survive. I grew up in a Christian home, but truly didn't find God until I was mature enough to open my heart. Through all of the heartbreak, there is healing that helps you become the person you're destined to be, but first you must allow yourself to be in a state of healing. I found God, and what works for me may not work for you, but finding something is key. I found God, and he assured me that if my father was still alive today, I would not be where I am. And that's such a tough pill to swallow. Please go to church if you can. I have been forced for many years to attend a church every Sunday where I swore the preacher was spitting on the mic and speaking another language. But the more mature I grew, the easier it was for me to find a church home. I felt the word was being spoken, to me directly after my father died. Study the books of the Bible, and you will see your life aligns a lot more than you know. Nevertheless, my father's death paid his debt to society. Through his mistakes, I was left here to leave a lasting impact on the lives of others. That is my superpower, and I consider myself a superhero. So in the end, or maybe just the beginning, I found a new relationship with God. I now know my father died for me to become the woman I am today. The biggest sacrifice any man could give a daughter. The greatest gift accompanied by a broken heart. If you are living with a broken heart, it's time to mend it. And then the quote that follows today's entry is, challenges make you discover things about yourself you never really knew. That's Cicely Tyson. So is there someone, dead or alive, you wish that you could have a relationship with? What is so special about this person? And so that's just something that you can talk about at the end of the book in the entry. You can self-reflect and kind of just write your thoughts and feelings down here. And I know I talked a lot about believing in God. Believing in God for me is more than just this man, right? It's the morals, it's the principles, it's the values that come along with living a healthy lifestyle. And so when my father was killed, I had a moment where I did not believe anymore. Just a moment. And I was just like, there can't be a God. They're just not for me to go through this. Not the way that I longed to have a relationship with my father. Not the way he made me feel, to have that feeling taken from me. So I had a moment, I'm like, how could you kill the one person that I admired? And so there was a point in my life where I kind of ran from home. I moved to, I went to Clarion University for graduate school. Long story short, I didn't succeed in getting the master's because mentally I just wasn't there. But I did succeed in finding God again. I ran into a family of a young man that I was seeing back then, and very Christian, loving family. And this woman's brother was a pastor, and we went to church one day, and he said, I need to pray for you. And I'm looking around because I'm like, who, me? What he need to pray for me about? Brother, you don't even know me. But I didn't question the pastor. I went up to the front or whatever. He put his coat around me, and he started to pray. He started to pray for me about things that I had complained about to my grandmother the night before. Mind you, my grandmother lives in Pennsylvania. There's no way she could have known that this man existed to even call him and give him a heads up about my mental struggles. And as soon as he started to pray, it was like, he said, God, let her know that you hear her praying. Let her know you're here to heal her pain. Let her know that when she's speaking to you, you are addressing her issues. And those were the exact same things that I complained about to my grandmother the night before. And it was just like, when I asked him, I said, do you need me to tell you what to pray for? He said, absolutely not. it's already on his heart, and he used some of the exact same words that I used to explain to my grandmother about how I was feeling about God at that moment in my life. And it just opened up so many doors for me. That church was, I believe it's called Lord of the Harvest, and I believe he passed away, but it was in Aliquippa, Pennsylvania. Changed my life, and I never had a chance to tell him that, but he kind of got me set back up on the right track. So thank you to him. Thank you to Mrs. Pettis and her family, who helped me at that time. And she was also a godly woman herself, and I was in a relationship, and we met with a woman named Stacy, who was more like a spiritual counselor, and she kind of helped me get on track about dealing with my own health and how, focusing on myself. However, it was a beautiful thing, and weird things started to happen. Like, I walked past someone on the street, and they told me to tell someone hi that I knew passed away a long time ago. And I'm like, weird things have happened to me that I know that God is real, and I know that God was speaking to me. But I had to move all the way from home and clear my mind and be in a space that I wasn't familiar with, an uncomfortable space, in order to hear God's word. And so sometimes you have to step outside of the box to be able to hear when he's speaking to you, because oftentimes I know I'm not the only person that prays and say, well, I pray, but is he responding? Is he listening? Sometimes you have to take a step back and reevaluate your position and where you are in life. But anyways, if you haven't done so, make sure you get this book. We're going to continue next. We are going to continue next week with another entry. This is my heart, guys. This is a really good, quick, short read. I'll put the Amazon link again at the bottom. Even if you're seeing this after we're done the book study, you can still grab a copy of it. I promise you won't be disappointed. If you order from Etsy, I can actually sign it for you. If you order from Amazon, it's going to come directly from Amazon. But if you want it to go to Etsy, or if you want a personalized note and you want to gift it to someone, you can order it from Etsy and put in the comments, and I can do that for you. Also, make sure you check out the affirmation cards that I have available on Etsy as well. They're called This Black Woman's Affirmations. And yeah, let me know in the comments below how you're feeling and what you're thinking. Do you struggle with your faith sometimes? Do you believe your parents may have played a role in that? Are you fatherless? How has that impacted you? Are your children fatherless? What could you possibly be doing to help them fill that void of their father missing? Because there are things, girl, and to me, it's through Christ. But I love you. Thank you for watching. Quick, short video. See you next week. God bless.